Hi, everybody. Today we are doing our Wellness Wednesday. We're going to talk about identity as an Asian diaspora who's living in maybe overseas, and also our feminine and masculine energy, because society tells us to kind of like to be one way or the other, and sometimes we get confused. So we're going to bring on therapist and coach Samuel Shin today to talk about that. Now I'm having difficulty with Instagram again. I'm going to try that again, and then before I bring Samuel with us. Let's see. And let us know if you're in the audience, and we will greet you for if you have any questions at all. Okay, so Instagram is not cooperating, so I guess again I have to like, why is it not working? Okay, in that case, I guess I have to abort Instagram. And, okay, I'm gonna bring Samuel on, and here we go. Hi.
Hey.
Welcome, Samuel.
Sorry, I'm still getting my camera set up. That sucks.
Yeah,
It's not working.
I know, because this is, again, I wonder why, if anybody has issue with their Instagram lately. It's been 3 times now in a row that's not working.
You want to try restarting the app?
Yeah, maybe.
Closing it out?
It's strange. Let's see if that works. Nope. Still not really. Nope.
Okay. Well,
okay. We tried.
We will make do.
Yeah, as usual. Well,
So
anyways,
get
back to our conversation here. So
okay.
We can now focus on just our Facebook and YouTube. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I know that you have done a lot of inner work, and you're very spiritual. Sure. You meditate a lot and everything. And in the Asian community, especially for men, that's not a lot of you. Mm-hmm. And how did you navigate that? Like, with your identity, because you're a Korean American, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did you navigate that whole space and finding your own identity and being authentic to who you are?
So there's like 2 conversations there. One is like you're talking about as a man, and then you're also talking about just as a person, Asian. Right. There's like 3 pieces. Yeah. But I hear what you're saying. So my journey. Yeah, I mean, this is unconventional Asians, right? So like, I don't think I'm a very conventional Asian or even conventional person, to be honest. Like even within like the Western like folks who are doing spirituality and stuff like that, I always felt a little outside of those groups. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. I think it's kind of weird, and it's like almost not in our control how we come to this path, how we come to the path of self-growth or whatever inner work, healing. Like it just kind of happens to us, like usually some life circumstance or like, a relationship or like you lose a house or you lose a job, something happens for a lot of people. Yeah. But for me, actually, it's similar in that I didn't have like it wasn't a choice. Like it was just something from the moment I was born, I don't know, like I just always was very committed to, I guess, the truth, and trying to understand what the truth is, whether it's in me, whether it's in the world, whether it's in other people. I really cared about that. And then that took me to psychology. Yeah. To try to understand myself better, try to understand people. And I was like, I was so passionate about it that even that was different. Like I was in college, like in undergrad, studying psychology, studying neuroscience. I did like cognitive and behavioral neuroscience. Right. Big university, some classes had like 500 kids, some had like 100, some had like 30. And I'd just be like raising my hand nonstop. It wasn't like I was like, it may seem on the outside like I'm one of those guys, like trying to be a smart ass. I was just genuinely interested and genuinely curious. And every time I asked a question, my teachers were like, they were happy to call on me because like I stimulated conversation in them
Mm,
too, and how to like I was like an ideal student.
right.
But I just loved it. I just loved psychology. I could not stop thinking about it, and that was really, that was like 18 or 19, and from that
Wow.
point, I had never stopped. And then I
Mhm.
went to grad school in counseling, really alternative grad school. Yeah, a lot of Eastern spirituality kind of woven into the program.
Mhm. And
And
why do you pick that? Why do you pick the combination?
oh yeah, we could take this other one off.
Yeah, like easier.
That's a good question. I'm just gonna put this in. Sorry. It was actually I guess you can call it intuition, but it, it was like a whim. Like I went on a whim. Like I was working in a research lab in undergrad, and put on the EEG caps on
Oh,
people.
wow. Yeah.
Like participant come in, a volunteer for the study, and we're just chatting because I'm like putting this gel on her head and then like
Okay.
sticking the little nodes on, and we're just chatting. And she was a grad student in clinical psychology at the undergrad school,
Mhm.
and she had gone to. She told me about this school that she had went to that was
Mm.
like Buddhist. I was just striking up a conversation, right?
Conversations.
Yeah. So her undergrad was at a Buddhist university. I was like, what? And at the time, I'd
Oh,
like heard about Buddhism a
yeah,
little,
yeah.
and but she said it, and she told me about these grad school programs. Anyways, I looked into it, and it really uh, I was going to get a PhD in clinical psychology, which is really heavy in research.
Mhm.
And so this program that she had told me about, or that I explored or investigated, was it was much more about like the inner like plane of
Yeah.
human existence and psychology. So here I was studying all this
Mm.
brain and looking at brain waves and studying, but then like I was curious about like what really drew me to psychology, which was like my inner world and the
Yeah.
introspection and all that. So that's long story. That's a long story, but basically, I followed that intuition. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to get this master's program, then I'm going to get the PhD after that.
Mm.
Overachiever, Asian, right? So I was going to do that, and then do the PhD. But I ended up just doing that program, and it like transformed my life. It was really
Amazing.
really intense and really, yeah, beautiful, and just what it means to be human, and
Right.
breaking down these levels of mental, emotional, spiritual beings, physical beings.
Yeah.
So that just
And
blew me away. And
that's
yeah,
amazing. And now you're doing the work to help other Asian to navigate
yeah,
their
totally.
world, right? Yeah, because we're not taught that at all, like how to navigate our own emotions, or mental health is such a taboo, but that's changing, especially
Yeah,
during COVID times where all these things are coming to the surface.
right,
And we're really asking ourselves of our identity as well, because it's like, okay, are we now tied to our jobs? Because a lot of times people identify themselves with their jobs because that's every waking moment, majority
right,
of the time, that's what we do, right? Or at with their marital status, um, with I guess even being Asian, right? For
hmm,
example, and when that is being dismantled, we're starting to question like truly who we are, and
hmm,
if those conditionings still serve us or not, right?
hmm.
So like I guess I'll just talk about my story and my struggle a little bit as
Sure,
well with like
sure.
unconventional Asians, because I'm like you, exactly the same way, where I don't feel like I fit in anywhere,
Hmm,
in terms of like being an Asian or not. Like everything that I do in the past has always been like being the only Asian in the
hmm,
crowd, right?
hmm. Yeah,
Like the
thank
really adrenaline type of activities that I do, like open water swimming, like all of that stuff, cage diving with crocodiles, like yeah. And solo
you're.
traveling is just very adventurous, right? But then
Yeah,
you look at me and people assume I'm a certain way, like the
hmm,
stereotypes that we put on people, right?
hmm,
But then is that going to limit us to who we truly are? Because your
hmm.
parents and society tells you you should fit into this mold, but then
Right.
internally you know that that's not who you are. And when do you draw the line of taking that first step to become authentic? And but at which point do you not, so that it's not hurting other people of their image of you? um,
Mm,
which is really hard to navigate, because in this collectivist mindset as
mm,
Asians, we always
right.
don't want to stand out, right? And I think it's drawing that balance.
Mhm.
That's very vital for us to become unconventional Asians, right?
Totally.
And that's
Yeah.
all mental health, to be honest with you. At the end
Mhm.
of the day, yeah, that's the foundation.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's interesting you say that's what mental health is because people don't really see that. People don't get that, people don't
Right,
get that. Mental health is just like about being yourself and how hard that is.
right,
I mean,
yeah,
it's like if you
yeah,
boil it down, and how do you be yourself in a society where you have to make
hmm,
sacrifices? And yeah, being Asian means that there's more of those conditions and those constraints that you have to break through to be yourself,
yeah,
and whether it's in your family or just internally.
right,
Yeah, I mean, I think the self, like if you, so I talked about mind, body, emotions,
yeah,
spirit, like that's what I call the self. Like
mm,
what is your personal experience of life? What is your personal experience of anything? It's like you almost always break it down to
yeah,
like, I mean, I did a lot of meditation too. So it's like you have a physical experience and you can feel sensations in your body. You
hmm,
could feel emotions, right? Like you could feel these emotions in you. It could be kind of a feeling, but also just like a quality. Or you can notice your thoughts,
yeah,
or you can notice maybe like a spiritual experience, like an awakening, or like, but like other than that, like there's not really much to life except
right,
at least on a personal level. You know what
okay,
I mean? So like your
okay,
own personal experience, like what can you actually say is your personal experience of anything in this
hmm,
moment too? You can break
right,
it down into those things. Like for Asians, I think that is an important, this was for me. I mean, that blew my mind because I was like, oh, I have a self. Because I didn't have good boundaries in my family, and
hmm,
uh, there
hmm,
was no boundaries actually. And
yeah,
it was like, who am I, right?
hmm,
Who am I, or who am I according to my family? Like
hmm,
how do I just like take those
yeah,
apart and identify that?
right,
For me, it really was like developing this awareness of these different aspects of my being,
yeah,
mental, physical, emotional, could even add sexual. And like once I start to get to know myself on these different levels, like what is my mind like? What are my emotions like? Like what is my body or sexuality? Like what which of those are me and which of those are just like these conditions that I've inherited, right?
yeah,
That
so
that was
true.
the work. And I think that's the work for a lot of, I think that's what you're saying is that's the work for a lot of us on mental
Yeah,
health. Yeah.
yeah. And so what are there any tips on how to begin this journey? Because there's so
Mm.
many categories that we need to work on it, and it's really overwhelming.
You know, um, I don't think it is. I think at the beginning it might be, but like it's like
Yeah.
learning. It's like learning a new task. Like I don't know.
Mm,
Like we just spent whatever 10, 15 minutes trying to figure out StreamYard, right? So like when you
right.
first started doing StreamYard, right? It's a good example because there's like Instagram and there's this, and then you got to get different headphones and mic.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
then it just kind of gets consolidated and simplified,
Right.
right? And then
Mm,
so like you develop those aspects of who you are, you start to become aware of them over
yeah.
time. Like it just, it's like second nature.
Mm. Yeah, Howie said here, how do you recommend teaching the discovery as self? Asking because it's so often reduced to your accomplishments or job or productivity.
How do I reduce the what?
I know. How do you recommend teaching the discovery as self?
Oh
Because
yeah.
we're often reduced, our self is reduced to just our accomplishments or job or productivity,
Oh,
especially for Asians. Like our identity is so wrapped up in that.
yeah.
Yeah. So how do you even like discover yourself?
It's
Like where?
hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I understand the question, but it's hard for me to answer because I'm like so I haven't done that. Like I said, I've just followed my truth always. So
Mm,
it's harder for me to, but I get that. I think most people do that, not just Asians, but people.
in general, yeah.
Yeah, you identify with these activities, or I like doing this, or I'm a mom or dad, or yeah, I work in business. Like, who are you? Those are the things that come up, like the external thing.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
what I think he's talking about. So, yeah, just developing an awareness of like your inner world. I mean, I don't know if that's.
So how do you start beginning your
I mean,
awareness? Would you say meditation?
I would say meditation is probably the biggest one in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
I think therapy is also up there because
Mhm,
the
mhm.
whole process or coaching or healing or whatever, getting education
Yeah.
around what the inner world actually is, getting a roadmap for it. That's
Yeah.
basically what therapy is. Like you go there and you get to understand yourself. The therapist is just a mirror, right?
Right.
Supposed to be at least.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so that you can start to see yourself and be like, oh, this is how I'm like constructed, or these are the areas where I'm like, this comes up, and this is the area where this comes up. Oh, I actually want it to be more like this. So maybe I could work on, so
Mm.
therapy, self-awareness practices, coaching, whatever is huge. And then meditation, mindfulness. I'm not big on that word, but I think mindfulness meditation that's the premise of it. That's the basis of meditation. Mindfulness is
Mhm,
breaking it down to your felt experience, like your experience.
mhm.
Like what yeah, I don't want to get into the philosophy, but like yeah, just what are you actually experiencing in this moment? Like even right
Mm.
now. What do you notice right now?
Right, like, say, for example, your thoughts, like, I can break it down to my thoughts, my feelings, and sensations in the body,
Yeah, you could do it
right?
like that individually,
Yeah,
and I think over time you could do that. But yeah, you could also just do it like right now, like what you're noticing me on the screen, right?
right, with
Or
an
and then
orange wall in the back with your
okay,
whiteboard, so that's, like, very, just
you could do it.
materialistic plane,
You could do it on
right?
the external too. Yeah, for sure.
And then internally, then it's like, I'm thinking of the next question to ask, like, for
Exactly.
example,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
really objectively pointing those things out,
Right.
and then kinda go into a deeper layer of now, how am I feeling?
Mhm.
Am I getting nervous that this live stream won't go well? Like, for
Yeah.
example, and then it's like, okay, but where did I pick that up from? Like going back
Mhm.
into a deeper layer of like, oh, why am I nervous that this live stream won't go well? Is it
Mhm.
because I learned perfectionism? And where
Mhm.
did I learn perfectionism? And then it's like
Right.
almost like going deeper and deeper and deeper. It's like where, how, when, why, what
Yeah.
like type of thing of each
That
thing that I
for
feel
sure.
and think.
Yeah, I would also add that yes, and like how are you relating to that experience? So how do you
Mm,
relate to the fact that you're feeling maybe self-conscious or,
right.
like perfection? Like are you judging yourself for that?
Mm,
Like if you're doing that, then it's like where does that come from? Is that, you, or is that your
someone
parents?
else, yeah, some
Yeah, or
conditioning that we've learned and picked up.
right, yeah. So
Mm,
so this is very key to authenticity too, right? We're talking about
yeah.
authenticity
Mhm.
'cause once you start developing this awareness, then you can start to, uh, I guess, just be yourself, know how to navigate the world better.
Right,
Like,
right.
I mean, I think we're going to talk about like masculine, feminine relationships and stuff. So, like,
Mhm.
it's like when you can know yourself,
Yeah,
what's your history? Like what are some of
right.
the things you carry and that come up in relationship? Then
Mm,
that helps you identify and like notice. Okay, yeah, maybe I'm attracted to this person, but I'm also like I know myself, and so like it's like empowering. It's like
yes, very.
you learn how to listen to that and follow that. Then it's like
Mhm.
okay, you know how to say no or yes to things in life, and
Mm,
whether
mm.
it's that or food or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, it's a superpower in my opinion to
Yeah, no, for
develop.
sure. Yeah, to be able to observe yourself, but to be able to observe yourself in the first place, get that muscle and that skill,
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
would be meditation. Because
I would say meditation is
yeah,
huge,
yeah.
and if you want to talk about meditation, I just say give it a lot of time because
Yes.
like it took
Mhm.
me 2 years of meditating before I got it. I understood something, and it like
Mm,
was a breakthrough, and then then what I meditated like total of maybe 10 or 11 years.
right, wow.
And it just like flowed from
Yeah.
that point. But like up until that point, it was like so frustrating. I couldn't do
Mm.
it for even like 5 minutes without just like, oh, my mind is like crazy, you know? Like it really takes practice. Yeah. So I think it's the hardest skill. I think meditation is the hardest skill
Yeah,
any human can endeavor to do
right.
because it's contrary to like we're so out of our own body, out of our own experience, externalizing everything. But like, what is it like to actually like not, like go out and just like stay in and like not get distracted.
Yeah. And observe your own inner world.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So I would say first step is that.
I would say
Journaling
that,
also
yeah,
helps too, I would say.
good one. Yeah,
Journaling.
journaling.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but
Mhm, mhm.
yeah. So yeah, that's a good one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, those are two things that I do anyways, because like for me, meditation is like the ability to observe
Mm,
myself and others. And
mhm.
then the journaling, it's like asking myself questions. And it's
Okay.
almost like self-therapy. It's like, okay, where did that come from? How did that
Mm,
how do I relate to other people? And
mhm,
how am I triggered as
mhm.
well? And then it's like, what feelings do I feel in my body when I have to set a boundary, for example. Like my heart literally, I have like heart palpitations because I feel so scared
Yeah,
to voice my needs.
right.
But everyone will react differently and
Yeah.
in different parts of their body as well. And kind of like seeing a pattern of how you react to certain things
Mhm.
helps. So that's why it takes a long time for you to do that.
For
Um,
sure.
yeah,
That's beautiful. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, it's almost like taking a look at yourself, like turning the looking glass inwards. I mean, that's a cliche statement, but like
Right.
you're getting a microscope and then you're like slowing things down or you're like magnifying something or like zooming out, like, but
Yeah,
you're doing it inside. That's what
yeah.
you're doing. You're like
Mm.
developing that
I like that
awareness,
analogy.
I guess.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. Yeah, Howie said, retreats out in nature, literally remove distractions. Yeah. Not so addicted
That's
to our
true.
phones. Yeah.
Well, that's true, but I think yes, and then like if you want to translate all the things you learn into the world, into reality, you're going to have to learn how to also navigate distractions. Because there's a way,
Right, right.
the yeah, there's like a teacher, famous teacher named Jack Kornfield. He runs a meditation center in San
Okay.
Francisco, and he spent like I don't know 20 years, 10 years, I don't know what it is, but in Thailand meditating, and like he got enlightened.
Right, right.
And then he was like, okay, I'm going to go back and maybe teach or be with my family or visit my family or something. So he came
Mhm.
back after he's all enlightened and he was like, everything like came back.
Right.
So
So that doesn't
everything
help then.
triggered and this and that. So he's like,
Right.
he's removed from everything. And like, yeah, he got all these amazing, beautiful experiences, but like coming back into the world, like he didn't, those patterns were still there because he didn't work them out in the real world, right?
Mm, right. Then it's a balance. It's like, okay, maybe go out in nature to figure out yourself out. And then when you come back, let's practice in reality in the 3D world, right? With
Yeah,
each
totally.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
love
that's
that.
where things like therapy or journaling or coaching or whatever is helpful for because you're actually learning how to be more authentic and be more you and navigate things like relationships or work or whatever,
Yeah.
money, whatever it is. You're learning how to be yourself
Hmm.
with a guide or with some help and with just increasing your awareness in the world. So
Yeah.
then you know how to be like, okay, yes, no, or you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. No, that's
it's
powerful.
empowering. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, let's segue a little bit into, I guess, relationships or with others and with yourself, in terms of like feminine and masculinity, right? Um,
Sure.
that type of energy in our body. Because the thing is, every single person has both feminine and masculine energy.
Right.
But it's just more like a percentage. It's like some have like
Mhm.
100% like alpha male, type of tendency. Some
Mhm.
female, maybe 100% feminine. But then like me, I'm like maybe 70% feminine, 30%. Or maybe I'm giving myself too much credit. Maybe I'm 60-40. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, so it's good to know what percentage or where you are truly authentically,
Mhm.
in order to find someone that can match you. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
like in terms of dating, because like
Right.
I realized I was attracted to people who are really alpha,
Yeah.
but then because I have some of that like masculine energy within me, we clash. Because
Oh,
it's
wow.
like I won't be able to, because I have some alpha in me, right? And so if
Yeah.
we're both alphas, that doesn't work.
Right.
But then I'm not 100% either. So it's like,
Yeah.
where do you find that balance? Like someone who's like mixed like me, right?
Mm,
Which would make it more, I guess, stable instead of like this whole imbalanced dynamic. And
right.
what do you think about that?
Right. I'm gonna be authentic and just say I'm really like sleep deprived and like
Yeah.
I can feel my face is like swollen, so I'm feeling self-conscious.
Oh,
But also just
no,
to
I
say,
appreciate you being here. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's great to be here. It's nothing about here. I'm just like looking at my face and like looking at myself a lot. But yeah, I heard your question. Yeah, I mean, I think what was the last piece? Just like what?
Yeah, like
How do you go about
how do
that?
you go about like navigating your feminine and like masculine energy and where they
Great
sit?
question.
Yeah.
Well, there's a quiz you could take on Facebook. No, I'm just kidding.
Apparently.
There is a quiz. Yeah, but like, um, I mean, I think that's like a very general question. Like, I think you
Mhm,
can.
mhm.
I think attraction does happen naturally in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah,
So, like, I think it's the nature of masculine and feminine dynamics. Like, whatever your percentage are, if you're going to break it down that way, then
right.
it will kind of match up with somebody else's
Mhm, mhm,
masculine.
mhm.
um, at least like physically or sexually or whatever, right?
Right.
Maybe even emotionally, I think too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think. Hmm.
Well, okay, so you kind of need a polarity, right? Like, the masculine and the feminine needs to be like the opposite. If you're the same, then there's like no polarity, then there's no
No
attraction
attraction.
in
Yeah.
a way, right? So like that's why like well, not to say all narcissists are alphas,
Hmm.
but like you know what I mean? Like the empath and the narcissist.
Yeah, yeah. I have an example that might be
Yeah.
like good for the audience to hear. It's a personal example,
Okay.
and it relates to like like the ways that our masculine and feminine can actually come from uh, how much our parents
Mm,
modeled it for us. So like
mm,
your dad is like your inner masculine, your mom is your inner feminine,
ah,
right? Because those are our models. And so that's how
yes,
we think the world operates.
right.
It's not so black and white. Like you can
No.
have like I know people, I think like Joe Rogan,
Mhm.
who's, you know, like he didn't have a dad. Like his dad left when he was really young. So he's
Right.
this hyper masculine figure in a way. He's a sensitive guy.
Yeah.
He's also
Yeah.
hyper masculine because he kind of took that role on in his
Mm,
in his family with his mom,
right.
right? So
Mhm,
she was like
mhm.
a single mom,
Yeah.
or only child. So like he has this masculine side, but he also had to develop that because it was a role. So it can just it's the bottom line is it's influenced by your upbringing,
Yeah.
your parents and those
Mm,
dynamics, your masculine and feminine.
yeah.
But you also have like an inner authentic self
Right.
that is either congruent and matches that if or it may not. Oftentimes
Mm,
it doesn't. And so I think a lot of the work is really developing your authentic self, like we're talking about, undoing the conditions and understanding what those are, exploring them. Oh, that's actually my dad is. That's how my dad is, and so the example I have is, so my mom was really masculine. She was
okay.
like the breadwinner. She was working a lot. My dad was he was studying to be a pastor, but he's like sleeping and didn't work hard and like he's like he's napping at the desk all the time. That's all I saw.
Okay.
He's supposed to be studying. I like helped him with his homework. Like it was a
Wow. Okay.
weird. He didn't have that like I'm the man of the family. He didn't have that at all. My
Right.
mom was the one who was like strong, and she was very strong and fiery woman.
Mm,
So my feminine is very strong.
right.
Masculine is kind of has been more weak in the past,
Mm,
based on what I experienced,
dynamics. Okay.
these
Okay.
dynamics.
I
Exactly.
have a question though.
But let
But
me can I just
okay,
go
sorry,
to
let you
the
finish.
okay, so basically what happened was I would be attracting women who were very masculine and like
Mm,
overbearing and like,
right. Right.
like controlling even because my
Mm,
mom was kind of like that. But then I switched through my own healing process. I realized, wow, I'm not my dad. I'm actually
right.
much more masculine, and like I just didn't have good models for it. So I've been developing this masculine. And then I'm realizing, oh, I'm actually more attracted to more feminine women. It's
Okay.
not like it doesn't feel like natural sometimes.
Oh,
So I've had to like develop that awareness and practice it. Like,
okay.
oh, okay, I'm naturally attracted to a woman who's a little more controlling or overbearing or like,
Yeah,
like narcissistic even.
right.
But knowing that that's my pattern and knowing where that comes from and how it's actually not really in alignment with who I am, it comes
Mm,
then I can be like, oh, okay, so I have to develop boundaries now around women like that who like
yes,
there
yes,
might be a
yes.
magnetic attraction based on attachment or whatever.
Ah, that's so good.
Yeah, and then like
Yes, and
develop
then kind of like wheel it in and be like, "Wait a second, like, is that actually what I'm attracted to, or is that an automatic response?"
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love that.
It's not what's good for me. Like like
Yes. Yes,
especially
that's so interesting because I literally had this, like, aha moment as well
okay,
with, figuring out my pattern.
totally.
So I just realized
Mhm.
that the 2 most important people men figure in my life was my dad and my ex-husband, and
Okay.
they were now I, like, kind of Googled it, they were kind of like covet narcissists.
Covet.
Yes. So, on the
Closet?
surface no, on the surface, they look like empaths, but
Okay.
underneath, they're actually narcissists. Like, they're disguised as empath.
But
So
they were
then
really like
they're actually alpha, like, very alpha.
okay.
Yeah,
Makes
so I was just like, "Whoa," that's why I was so confused. Like,
makes
I
sense.
always look for this, like, person who is amazing and very chivalrous and always, like, doing things for you, but
Yeah.
underneath, when it comes down to it, it's his way or the highway, right?
Interesting.
And so then
Okay.
I'm like, "Whoa," I've always been, like, kinda going down that pattern and that path of attracting those guys, but that's
Mm,
not good for me at all because then I was never accepted for who I am,
mhm.
and because that's what narcissists do is his way or the highway, right?
Right,
And
right.
then they feel like women should be, they should be more submissive and they should be,
Oh gosh,
catered
exactly.
to.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
So that's
and that's
yeah.
why I always were having kind of a problem with it. Like, I don't know why, but it was just like on the surface, it looks like, well, isn't it great that I'm taken care of? But at the same time, underneath, I have this like anger and resentment. Like, yo, like, shouldn't I be
Wow.
independent? So, like, kind of
Ah,
figuring that out was really enlightening and just
yeah,
kind of changing the whole pattern. And now that I realize that, my taste in men has changed. Like,
right.
it's like, whoa, like now I'm not attracted to like the more ambitious. I mean, still attracted to people who are responsible and all of that stuff and are goal oriented, but not like the really alpha, type of men.
Mhm.
But again, I'm stereotyping here, but it gives me a bit more clarity in
Mhm.
terms of what works for my personality, right? And just
Exactly.
knowing that, and I'm not 100% submissive or
Right.
100% feminine, and that's okay.
Totally.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So I think that's really powerful for us to realize and for the audience to figure that out. And it usually is always tied to your childhood. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I would also say, I guess you can call it patriarchy, but just like
Yeah.
the stereotypical roles. So like there was probably a part of you that felt like you had to be feminine. You
Hmm.
had to
Hmm.
be more feminine. Like you have this masculine side to you, but you didn't really let that it wasn't maybe conscious or like you just weren't aware of it, or you just even didn't feel like it was okay. Like,
Right.
because what you're supposed to do in relationship, how you're supposed to be is
Yeah.
the more feminine. But you have
Right.
this natural part of you that's very,
Yeah.
masculine or
Right.
like
Yeah, it's interesting because I like, at least for me, I oscillate between the two. It's
right,
almost, I think naturally I'm actually feminine, but
right.
I was raised to be very masculine because I have to be
Okay.
independent. I have to do
Oh,
stuff on my own. And
cool.
then when I go into relationship, I actually prefer to relax.
Right. Yeah,
But
yeah.
then when it's then in everyday life, then I'm gonna deal with my own stuff. So then I become masculine, right?
Mm,
So it's like it's very interesting how it's onion layers. It's like
right.
it's not black and white
It's
at all. It's just like
yeah.
different people trigger different things out of me,
Mhm,
and that's kind of like what I saw,
mhm,
and a pattern that I saw, even though it might seem very variable.
mhm,
And just to say to the audience out there, you might find it confusing at the beginning, but you literally
mhm.
have to like peel back the layers to
Yeah.
really figure out like who you truly are, and that
Mhm,
takes work, that takes time, and that's
mhm,
okay.
mhm.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So I mean, like right now, even like on the dating apps and stuff, like looking for people, just understanding who you truly are really will change the way you navigate that scene.
Mhm.
Instead of kind of again going down that same pattern over and over again, then you're like never learning anything, and you're never kind of finding the person that who you truly are compatible with, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we just kind of like end up being very disheartening
Mhm.
when you keep just going down that path thinking that you have it, like kind of figure it out. But at the end of the day, it's about always coming back to the self
Mhm.
and knowing who you are. That's why this whole channel is based on kind of authenticity and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they've tried to create a dating app for like mindful something, or I
Oh, is
think,
that right? Oh.
but it's not very good. Or at least I didn't like it very much.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, there should be
Yeah, yeah.
more
Well,
more.
I'm curious then, like in terms of dating, how do you decipher what is good for you or not? Because if you're like
Ah,
very mindful, I would imagine you wanting someone else that's the same.
how do I?
Yeah, navigate. Like, say if you look at a picture and like what they write, like how do you?
Oh, on a dating app.
It's like left or right, which one?
On a dating app.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to record on this other device too. Yeah. Well, dating apps.
Like
I
if
It's
yeah,
so
like do
hard.
you go for looks first? Like, can you like feel their aura? You know
I'm
what I mean? Like,
really
what do you
I'm
look for?
I yeah, I think those are partly true. Like we dating apps are hard because especially things like where you're swiping, because
Yeah,
you're really going off of, you just have to make a decision based on some random thing. So you could totally be wrong, right? Like maybe
right,
you did
right.
have a connection with this person, but you don't. So you're just like you're just making the best guess that
Decisions
you
you could.
can,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So
Right.
but I yeah, I mean I just know myself, so I have very strict criteria. I'm a very
Okay.
like,
Oh, frozen.
am I lagging or you're lagging?
Maybe both. Either way, we're back.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like the more you know yourself, the more kind of strict or stringent or
Selective you are, yeah.
selective. Yeah, you know what you want, and
Mhm.
here's this big sea of, different types of fish. It's like that's
Yeah.
the fish that I want. Like I'm gonna. I mean, you can't just like go and dive in and get it, but like, I guess you can like. I fish, right? I like fishing,
Right.
so it's like you can get the right type of you call it. I actually call it a presentation, like the type of
Mm.
lure and the type of bait for that type of fish, and then you can fish for it, and then maybe you'll get one.
I see, I see. Interesting, interesting. Well,
But
that's true. I mean, isn't there a dating app called Plenty of Fish?
there is, yeah. I was just, yeah. But
That's
does
interesting.
that make
Huh.
sense?
I guess that's like a male strategy. Maybe for female too,
That's
because like,
probably
that
true.
type of guy, that type of female, like this type of thing.
I mean,
Really is a
but I
strategy.
do have no. I like have. Yeah, I'm curious how we could talk about this if you want, but like
Yeah.
how men and women differ
Right.
in
In
their
terms of
strategies or how they're
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Sure. And then so what do men do?
I can't speak for all men, obviously.
But for you.
For me, I would say, um, well, I can give examples of like,
Mhm.
with all this racism stuff, I'm like very
Yeah.
like, if it's a white person, I'm like, I'm suspicious. So
Okay.
I usually swipe
Okay.
the no, whatever the no is.
Okay.
But
Oh, you never know. They might not be, but yeah.
I don't care. It's just, again, you got to just
It's
make the best
easier. Okay.
guess, probabilities,
Okay.
whatever. So I'm
Right.
not going to
Okay.
risk it. Um, but I forgot what else I was going to say. Just how
What
do
other
I?
criteria? Yeah. What other criteria do you look for?
I feel.
Like, okay, so like pictures. Like, what pictures turn you off or on?
Yeah, I mean that's so particular. I mean, I could say it, but it's like I
Well,
think
everyone's different. Yeah.
everybody has their own particular type of features
Right.
and
Right.
like,
But would you say someone wearing really revealing clothes turn you off?
revealing what clothes.
Clothes.
It depends on how it is. Like, like
Oh, how they dressed it.
how their energy is, right? In the photo is like,
Okay,
there's a
see?
lot of the photos of like the, on Tinder at least, a lot of like butt photos.
Right.
Like, okay, so there's like sexual energy, but like, is it embodied sexual energy? Is it like
Ooh.
somebody who's really like aware and owns their sexuality, not just like as a physical thing, but like energetically, or
Interesting.
like an embodied, like I think I could feel that. I think I could see if it's rare, but like I could see a woman who's like really in her body, and it's not just
Wow.
like her butt or her breasts. It's like, oh, I swipe left or no on those.
Right. Okay. So it's really the energy that matters
I
at the
think
end of
for
the day.
me, it is a lot
Yeah.
to do with the energy. Yeah.
And what type of energy are you saying confidence? Like
Say again.
embodied energy. So does that mean confidence, owning themselves,
It's hard
knowing who they are?
to like that.
Is that what you mean?
I wish we had like pictures, but
I
like,
know, right? Like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
like,
Give us quick
I mean,
examples.
again, it's not black and white. These are just
Yeah,
assumptions that I have to make like
of
quickly.
course,
But,
very
but
quickly.
yeah, like
You're pretty intuitive.
a woman who's like, you could just tell she's owning her
Okay.
power and her beauty and
Right.
the
Yeah.
power of her body,
Mhm, mhm.
and the way that is, it's a power. If you have like
Right.
if you're really embodied, like, doesn't even matter how you look,
Yeah.
like
That's
they,
true. It's true. No,
like you can just
100%.
tell a woman's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's like beautiful, powerful woman.
Right, right.
Yeah,
But so is that called more masculine energy?
I think it is. Yeah, I think
Right,
it's a probably a meeting place of masculine and feminine. I don't. I'm not going to put too much stake into this, but like,
right.
yeah, typically sexuality and desire is
Mhm.
a masculine kind of thing. And
Right.
so like, and then it's not man or woman. I'm just saying masculine or feminine, right? So like,
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, I think a masculine energy can be a little more outward with your sexuality and owning it,
Right.
owning your desire and like
Yeah.
horniness or whatever you want to call it. Like that's typically, but
Mhm.
you don't see a lot of women doing that. But it's because of the conditioning. Like it's not that women can't or shouldn't. Uh,
Mm.
I think it's just the way that the patriarchy has conditioned
Right,
us, right?
right. So I guess it always goes back to authenticity too then. So if that person is owning themselves to who they are, no matter what they look like or their size and shapes and whatever, but it's just that aura of like, I know who I am, I own it, I love myself anyways,
Mhm.
that it's attractive.
Right. I
Yeah,
mean, to some people, not to all men, right? Like
right.
some men won't like that. Some men might want somebody who's more stereotypical,
Yeah.
like woman or feminine, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah, it just depends. But yeah, I think
Right.
for um yeah, it's like
But even
the
feminine can also be authentic, right? It's kind of like they own that they're more feminine, that they like to, be taken care of and all of that, and there's nothing wrong with that. That
right.
can be authenticity too.
The question
So it's
I'm
just like
like,
whichever way they are.
that's literally what I'm wondering. Like,
Yeah.
is there, I mean, there's no one size fits all, but like
No.
if that kind of woman or that kind of person
Right.
like was to work on their masculine or her masculine energy,
Mhm.
like I guess you have to look at like maybe the overall like health of the person's life and
Right.
their emotions, and is this like a happy person?
Right.
Like are they in balance in their world? And maybe if they
Mm.
are right, if they're super fat, because I get the feeling that like we all can probably get our masculine and feminine more into balance,
Right.
and that would lead to fulfillment. Like I have this
Yes.
crazy, I have like maybe Taoist or something. I don't know what it is, but I always talk about balance and like yin and yang and that kind of
Yep. No,
thing.
100%
I
agree.
really do think that masculine and feminine integration in us is enlightenment. That is like being in
Mm.
the world in this super authentic way where we can navigate things, where we can, like take action and like do the things when we need to, or be really strong or whatever you say masculine is, and then like be the more watery like we all of those are important aspects to life, like
Yes.
things that
Yeah.
we need to develop to be
Mhm.
able to live a really fulfilling,
I agree.
successful, whatever it is, life, right? So
Yeah.
I that's my, yeah, that's my personal opinion, because
Mhm, mhm.
see a woman who's like really feminine, but like not. embodied in some other way in masculine or whatever.
Mm,
That to me feels like patriarchy. That to me feels like a person who hasn't done their work. But there's exceptions to all this. So I'm not like saying this is but
one way or
you
the
know what I
other,
mean?
yeah.
Like, we're just kind of talking about generalities and awareness.
Right, of course. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's true. And sometimes just being more fluid with it too, right? Because there's circumstances in business, for example, you need to be more masculine. But
right.
in a relationship, if you're female with a man, like feminine energy, masculine energy could be whatever sexual orientation,
Mhm,
then like maybe more being more receptive works better in that situation than others. So being able to adapt to that
mhm.
whatever's changing circumstances
Right.
would be more powerful too once you're integrated because you understand both types of energy and
Yeah,
can use it according to the
exactly.
situation.
Yeah, you can access it because if you can't and those situations come up, then you're kind of screwed, right? Like
Right.
or it just won't go as well as it could have gone had you had
Yeah.
those capabilities or skills
Right.
or energies.
Right. Right. Interesting. Yeah, I love that. That's great.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
it's totally about authenticity, and I think really masculine and feminine together. I mean, it's such a loaded thing. Even as I say it, I'm like,
Yeah.
people don't get it yet. People don't get that these aren't attached to gender. I mean, people are
No.
starting to get it, but
Right.
I guess I'll say in the like same voice or token or whatever, like the same vein, like the opposite is also true. There is something about gender and physical, like testosterone or whatever, like those types of things. I do think, you know what, there, if it'd be interesting to see like a study
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
like look at people who actually have more masculine energies or traits versus like a man who is more masculine or feminine, and like just measuring their testosterone or progesterone or estrogen.
Yeah.
There's probably a correlation, you know.
Yeah. No, for
Is
sure.
is it that person's authentic self to be that way? I don't necessarily think so. Just because it's your biology doesn't mean that that's what
Mm,
you're limited to. So
right.
it's a really complex thing, but that would be
Right.
an interesting study.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. And yeah, how much is how much is nature versus nurture?
Mhm.
And then now I'm questioning with authenticity, then is it something you can control and that it is a choice, right?
Good que
As
I
well.
love
It's
that
like your identity, is it something that technically we can be whoever we are. If we
I
can unlearn everything, then you can
I
just be whatever you want to be.
I think this is actually really a big question, a real big topic.
Yeah.
Um, Man, yeah, this is
Yeah,
such a
yeah.
big
We're
topic,
gonna go down
but I
another
love it. I
rabbit
love
hole,
it.
but
No, I could say something really quickly, which is that I think it's true. I think we
mhm.
can choose to be whoever we want,
Yeah.
but you're not going to ever choose anything unless you really that's really who you are, right? Like I'm
Mm,
not going to if I you know unless I feel like gay or what I mean bi or whatever, I'm not going to be like I want to be gay. Like there's nobody,
right. If you don't have that preference,
if it's not
then
authentic.
true, true, true.
But if it is authentic,
Yeah.
you can really choose to be whoever you
Yeah.
want. Like, I really do
Yeah.
believe that. You can
No,
choose
I
to be
believe
whoever
it
you
too.
want, however you wanna be. You just have to be willing to own it and
Yeah.
start implementing or taking action and being that person in the world,
Mhm.
and then you will be that person. Like,
Yeah.
I literally so much of my life has been transforming identity. It's been,
Yeah.
like, living in different identities, and
Yeah.
they all felt authentic, and they all helped me develop some aspect of myself, and then I
Mhm.
left the identity, and then I chose a new one because they
Mm.
were more authentic, you know?
I love that, our identities can change as
I
well
think
over time.
they should. I think they should
Yeah.
change if you're doing this work, right? If
Mm.
you're not
I love
changing,
it.
then you're not doing the work.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
some people are so attached to their identities that
Yeah.
they're unwilling to change because it's scary. It's scary to
Mhm.
leave your identity and not know who you are and
Yeah.
discover it, like go into uncharted. Like so many people are living in that, uh, yeah, in that frame. And
Right. Going with what society wants and what cultural
yeah,
conditionings
right.
because it feels safe.
They feel safe and they think it's who they are and they don't know what the alternative is.
That's right.
right? So there
Right.
literally is an unknown. Like you do have to be creative. You do have to enter into this place of not knowing who you are,
Yeah.
and like that terrifies people.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they do not know how to deal with that. And honestly, that's fine. I mean, that's just part of it. But uh,
Yeah.
you know, people aren't willing to leave the safety and security of those identities.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah. But well, unconventional Asians, we're trying to change that.
totally. Yeah, this is great because I think your channel really does showcase and represent the Asians who have broken from the norm. I
Mhm.
mean, on some level, we're all taking some identities from the
Of
world,
course.
and
And
we
there's
need
nothing
to,
wrong with
right?
that either. Yeah.
Yeah, but like for being unconventionally Asian, it's like, yeah, you do have to break out of the conditions, the really heavy kind of, like constraining conditions of Asian culture, right?
Yeah.
Not just
Yeah.
from our parents or our culture, but even from society, like what society says.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, you
Mhm.
as an Asian woman, right? Like
Mhm.
you're a flight attendant. Like I'm
Yeah.
sure you got like stereotyped, like
The most stereotype I could ever
oh,
get.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And
But,
then and just kind of like saying to the world, "Hey, your flight attendant is only one aspect of your life." And then,
mhm,
yes, I was also in the military, but yes, I'm
right.
also divorced. Yes, I'm also like kind of
Oh,
breaking out of like the thing is, I came from a very unconventional background to begin
mhm,
with my childhood, right?
mhm.
And then when I got married, I went into a conventional lifestyle.
Okay.
And then when I got divorced, I went back to my unconventional Asian
Oh,
true authentic self.
when you
And
what?
when I got divorced,
When you
because
divorce.
when I
Yeah.
went back into self-discovery, my true
Yeah.
self is very unconventional.
Well,
Uh,
okay. How do you
yeah.
feel you would be now if you entered into a relationship?
I'm still trying to navigate the conventional, unconventional, whatever, like what do I actually want and pick and choose
Yeah,
to see what works for me.
sure.
But it's a journey, right? Like just literally treating myself as an experiment
Uh-huh.
and dating as an experiment to see, okay, does this serve me? And does it truly give me fulfillment? And is that person able to kind of adapt to my ever-changing identity, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, so you're using yourself as kind of the gauge or the
Yeah.
the the like decision, like it's like a you're analyzing a little
Mhm,
bit
mhm.
the situation and the
Yeah,
person.
yeah, but
Basically, yeah,
it's kind
go
of the
ahead.
same with life, right? It's like every situation you gauge to see, like you said, how you relate to it. It's like, okay, do
Right.
I actually like that? Now I'm going to observe myself. And instead of saying, oh, this is a situation that's usually stereotyped to be bad or good, I'm like, no, no, no. How do I feel about it? How do I think about it? And that's how I kind of come to my authentic self, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
gosh. I Yes, like 1,000%. Like that. If we could all do that,
Yeah.
man, imagine what this world would be like.
I
Imagine
know.
what like we would not have any of the problems that we're having with the climate or the rate. Like if we could really, because I do believe, yeah, I'm passionate
Go on,
about this.
Trevor. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just really passionate. But yeah, I agree that like that's if you can do that, if you can learn how to navigate the world being aware of your like using yourself as like the deciding factor, I guess,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Then like like it would just be everybody be so I don't know how to put it into words, but one thought comes to my mind, which is just that like my life, I've been able to use. It feels like here's the self, here's me,
Mhm.
and here's the outside world. Yes, like we're all one and everything, like beautiful, spiritual, whatever. But like there
Mhm.
is also separation. There is also the self, and that's what we're talking about. Who are you?
Right,
I've
right.
been able to use myself as a way to navigate and use things in the outer world
Mhm.
for my benefit. So like
Yeah.
you could use this. You could break this down to really big things or small things. But like school, for example, I went to grad school, but even undergrad. Like I did not go through undergrad the typical way that most people go through it. I
Mhm.
didn't even really think about the credits as much. I mean, of course, I was like, oh, I have to fulfill this and extracurricular this, and
Right.
but like I loved psychology.
Mhm.
So I felt like I actually used school. I wasn't being used by the system. I wasn't being
Yes. Oh, I love it.
you know what I mean? I was
Yeah,
actually taking advantage of the things that life has to
yes.
offer,
Yes.
and it was like it's so beautiful and empowering. Like I kind of feel lucky that I got to do that. You know,
Mm,
people go through school and they think they have to, oh, I have to do this to do that. But I was like, I wasn't thinking like that at all. I was just thinking, oh my God, I love this. But it's because I found what I love. I found what I was passionate about, and
mm,
it did match. You know,
yeah.
like there's some luck to it a little bit, but I think we can create that
Mm, I
reality as
love
well.
it.
Yeah.
This translates to almost everything in life where you can flip the script and say,
Mm.
which is actually the original intent of what we see in the world as tools. Instead
Yeah.
of using us, we use
Yeah.
them, which is
Yeah. It's
what
like
we're supposed to do in the to begin with. But I
totally.
think society has turned backwards, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's like apparatus. It's like this
Mhm.
thing that we can use to get what we want or get to the next level or do this. You know, they're like these, yeah, tools. That's great. Instead of
Yeah.
looking at it like we are not in control, like we really
Mhm.
can, I guess not control, but like make
Yeah.
decisions.
Right.
Yeah, I think we've made the point. Like I think this is a really, yeah,
Yeah.
it is like a tool that we can use to better ourselves or to get to where we want to be and
Yeah.
whatever it is. But you do have to know what it is you want.
In the
You
first
know
place.
where it is you want to, where you want to go. What you know, like what you need, like all these things. You
Yeah.
need to know that to use the world or your environment to your benefit.
Yeah.
And to yeah. So
Yeah. That's why
that's
inner work is the foundation of everything.
it really is. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really think it is. And
That's why
yeah,
your work is so important, right? And now just to kind of like wrap up to what you do now, because I know you have created a men's group.
oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you can talk to the audience about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, the men's group. Yeah, it does relate to what we're talking about because I think deep down we're all human, right? We all have this authentic self that we're talking about, but we do
Yeah.
have conditions from the world, from family, from wherever that tell us we're
Mhm.
supposed men, women too, but like men
Yeah.
have a particular way that shows up. And so, yeah, really a lot of my work in these groups that I'm doing are about helping men get in touch with that.
Mhm.
Who are they really? How can they express that more in the world? How can they share, be seen, expressing that? Uh, and yeah, and just start to feel okay with that and not feel so
Yeah.
isolated and alone. A lot of men feel isolated and alone. They can't express their emotions. They can't express some aspects of who they really are. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's just an opportunity for men to come and be seen. This group is it's like the first Wednesdays of every month, um,
Okay.
and yeah, you can find out about it from my Instagram. I think I posted on this in the group too,
Yeah. Well,
and
I can type it in there too. Yeah.
and yeah, it's just a short group, like an hour or something. We're just gonna come,
Okay.
check in, just get to share, be seen, like
And
and
be
it's
real and be vulnerable.
yeah, and it's I can't. It's limited to a certain number
Mhm.
because it's if it's too big, then I can't really manage the group. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you just have to come, show up. You get the link, you show up on the day, show up at the
Yeah.
time. If you make it in to 12, there's a 12 person limit. If you make it in, you're in. But if you're not,
I
then
see.
you have to wait till
Oh, I
next
see.
month.
Okay. 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 Oh, I like
Yeah,
that. That's great. That's awesome.
yeah,
And where
yeah.
else can the audience find you?
Yeah, well, the Asian coach, I just started a new Instagram, so follow me there. I post stuff like this, but I post a lot more about like mental illness
Yeah.
in Asian cultures and
Mhm.
how to navigate that. Um, and yeah, right now I'm like just starting to create this new platform and community and thing because I've switched over from working with men in general, not just Asians, but to focusing on the Asian community, men and
Yeah.
women. But
Mhm.
so yeah, right now that's really if you follow me on the Asian Coach on Instagram, then I'll then
You have all
you'll
the
see the other
information.
things. Yeah,
Awesome.
but yeah,
Awesome. At the Asian coach, right?
the Asian Coach. Hmm.
Yeah. Is it
Yeah,
the Asian coach?
it's the Asian coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Mhm.
Great. Awesome. And if anybody has any questions, let us know. You can always type in the comments below if you watch this as a replay, and we'll have Samuel come back, or me if you want to ask me any questions at all. We're happy to do that. Thank you so much again,
Cool.
Samuel, for
Thank
being here
you.
today and having this amazing
That was
conversation.
such a good conversation.
Yeah.
Glad it
Thank
was
you guys for watching.
Yeah.
Take care.
Okay,
Bye
bye. Bye,
now.
everyone.